Well, hello there, everyone. Hopefully, you're doing outstanding. Today is Tuesday, July the 5th, in the year 2022. And sorry I didn't make too many videos last week. I was in the country of Panama. Panama. 80s song, Van Halen. Panama. Let's see, question for you. ¿Hablas español? Puedo hablar en español un poquito. Yes, and remember, I'm Mazske Finance. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an attorney. Nothing like that. I try to share stories to help you financially, to help educate you, and I'll share stories, experiences, etc., etc. But also, I know Americans many times think they can never retire. Some Americans look at retiring outside the United States. I have experience in the country of Panama, and I was just there. So I will tell you a little bit about what I see from my perspective as a gringo who was born and raised in the United States. My perspective of what it's like to be in that country, okay, as a potential early retiree, because I have considered moving to that country. And I'll tell you at the end of this video what I may be doing, possibly, okay? All right, so stick around to the end and you will hear what Mazske may be doing. All right, so a couple things. Panama, I'll tell you how I first heard about it. I was in the Navy. I was in electronics school. I became buddies with a guy from the country of Thailand. He was in the Thailand Navy. He sat next to me. We became buddies. I had a goal of graduating top of my class because there was like 34 people in my class. And this was at the end. People rocked out, as they call it. They flunked out. So they got kicked out. So the class got smaller as it went on. And I wanted to be as close to the top as possible because say there's 34 students, there'd be 34 sets of orders. If you were ranked number 1 in the class academically, you get first pick of all orders. Number 2 gets second pick, and so on. So my goal was to be number 1. I think I would have ended up number 2, I believe, if I remember right. It's been a long time ago. Anyway, one day, getting close to the end, the career counselor came in the room, and he said something like, "I'm looking for 2 volunteers." And I immediately flashed back to boot camp where someone said the acronym for Navy, never again volunteer yourself. So I was like, I'm not volunteering for nothing. And so he talked about having 2 shore billets in the country of Panama. It would have been type 3 sea duty. It would count as sea time for rotational purposes for the U.S. Navy. I was sitting there, Panama. I've heard of the Panama Canal. I was like 19 years old. My buddy next to me, Pibul was his name. He was like, "Mark, you should put in for that." And I was like, "I don't know anything about Panama." And he was like, "I've been there. You'll love it there. When on break, I'll show you on the map in the wall, in the hallway. It's like a world map. I'll show you exactly where it is, and I'll tell you more about it." So he showed me, told me about it. So I walked down to the career counselor office, and there was like 3 or 4 people sitting in there already. And I opened the door, and knocked on the door probably. And I think he was the chief. I was an E1 or E2. Might have been E2 by the time. And he said, "You interested?" And I said, "I think I am." He goes, "Do you speak it? Have you taken any Spanish?" And I said, "Well, I took 1 or 2 semesters of Spanish back in junior high school." He's like, "All right, check that box off. I qualified for speaking Spanish." I didn't speak any Spanish. And then he goes, "Say your name," said my name. He's like, "Let me check. Oh, you're, out of the 4 of you in here, you are the highest. So no one else has come in. So looking at you 2, all right, Mazske and you, the 2 of you will get it. You're the 2 top highest out of this group. So if the other 2 or 3, whatever it was, you want to leave, I'll talk to you 2 more." So they leave, and he tells me they had 2 C schools. C school is like a follow-up school to your main school. Electronics technician is a specialty. He told me, he said, "Since you have the higher grade for the 2 of you, I will give you the better school." It was dealing with becoming a calibration technician. It was at Larry Air Force Base in Denver, Colorado. It was about a 4-month school. The other person got a crypto school. It was maybe 6 weeks long, wherever they went to. So they went there as a girl. And she ended up getting to Panama 2-3 months before me. So I got to Panama in July of 1988. So July of 1888, I flew onto Howard Air Force Base out of Charleston, South Carolina. And my sponsor picked me up, Brent. Brent was also an electronics technician. He was an E5. I was an E4 at that time. I graduated A school as an E4. And anyway, I proceeded. When he picked me up, I had to walk off the plane, walk across the tarmac into the building, and sweat was rolling down my face. And when I looked at him, sweat was rolling down his face. And I was like, well, it doesn't seem to bother him. I'm hot, And we're riding back to where I was going to be living at in the barracks, a place called Farfan. And then he helped me out those first couple of days. He helped me get my Panamanian driver's license. Whatever else I had to do around base, he helped me get checked in and whatnot. When you go overseas, they help you. There's always a sponsor to help you out. Real nice guy. So anyway, I spent then, I call it 2.5 years, a little over 27 months in that country. I ended up getting married in that country. I bought 10 days in the country, I bought a motorcycle. I loved having that motorcycle because I could drive into Panama City. I could go to the rich place. I could go to the slums. I wore a full face helmet, black leather gloves, long sleeve shirt, jeans, boots. You could not tell I was a gringo unless you saw the military base sticker down on the front fork. So I went all around Panama City at different times during that time period. I went out up into the interior. I had a great time. The missus, when we started dating, she'd ride on the back of it with me. She didn't love it as much as I did. Probably when I would drive through some rough areas, there's a dog always ran out at me, and I'd be kicking at the dog, and I think it scared her because I'd be kicking as I ride my motorcycle, kicking that dog back because I had boots on. So anyway, it is what it is. But anyway, then when I left I was there during Operation Just Cause, which was, you can Google it, Christmas time of 1989. I left in October of 1990. And I went to the island of Puerto Rico for 3 years. Big difference between Puerto Rico and Panama. Panama was great. Puerto Rico. My oldest son was born there. I completed my schooling, got my bachelor's degree in Puerto Rico, et cetera, et cetera. But back to Panama. My perspective as an American in Panama. All right, I've been back to Panama in 1993. Took my son when he was 9 months old. Oldest son, took him back there. Went back in 1999, took both my sons. The oldest one was like 5 or 6. The youngest one was 1 or 2. Went back there for 3.5 weeks, almost a month. Went back again. I didn't go back again until 2016. Money got tight. I went back, I think, for 10 days, 2 weeks. Rented an Airbnb on the old Howard Air Force Base. Both my boys ended up being there. The youngest one coincided with spring break from the United States Coast Guard Academy, flew down. The oldest one, his boat was stopping there. So he had like 3 or 4 days in the country. So we explored that, and then we're just back now. I just came back this morning. I got back to my house at 2:30 in the morning. My flight from Panama was not delayed, but they had to detour around some storm out there. So instead of being a 3-hour flight, it was more like a close to a 4-hour flight, I think, because it took a longer route, I guess, than what you would normally take because of the storm. So sorry about this. I'm digressing. American living in Panama, pros and cons. Pros. I'm gonna start with the cons. If you are an American, and I'm gonna try to interview an American who had never been to Panama, decided to retire there because he couldn't afford to retire in the U.S., and actually moved to the country, had a house built in a beautiful location, stayed there a couple years, and now he's back in the States. I'm gonna contact him and see if he'd be willing to come on my channel. No promises. I'm also going to contact my Airbnb host. He is a Panamanian citizen, but he's been to the States multiple times in different locations. And I'm going to talk to him about Panama from his perspective if he's willing to come to my channel. So hopefully both those individuals will come to my channel. My perspective, I'm just one person, my perspective. Start with the cons, finish with the pros. Cons of an American moving to Panama. Depends on where you live at in the U.S., you will find around Panama City and the entire country. Panama City is the capital. It's metro population, 1.6, 1.8 million, something like that. You will find around Panama City, the driving is aggressive. It's congested. It's a lot of horns. Lots and lots of taxis. These little tiny cars, Toyotas and Hyundais and maybe Kias. Little tiny cars, you don't really see these cars in the States, the type they have. They have different cars in Panama at times. But these taxis are everywhere. Buses are also there, different size buses. They're aggressive. If you want to drive in Panama City, you have to become aggressive. You have to. If you're not aggressive, you will get cut off, run over, not be able to get out into traffic. You got to be aggressive. Not every American is cut out to be aggressive as a driver. Okay? If you drive that way in the States, you're going to get a ticket. But if you don't drive that way there, you're going to have problems. All right, so with that being said, if you are an American and you're flying into Panama City for the very first time, please do yourself a favor. Take an Uber. Yes, they have Uber. I'm not sure if they have Lyft. I didn't check. Take an Uber or take a taxi. From the airport, a taxi will cost you more because they know you're a tourist. Once you're in Panama City, a taxi will be cheaper unless you're like a gringo like me and you don't have a Panamanian with you. They may raise the rate just a bit, but by your standards, it'll still be cheaper. By Panama standards, it may be a little expensive. Ubers are cheaper than taxis for the most part, okay? But it is congested. There is one highway that goes all the way north to Costa Rica. It goes up to Chiriquí and David and Boquete and all the little towns in between. One highway with side roads going off. So everyone's on that highway, which means there's a lot of traffic. Speed limits vary. It's in kilometers. It might be 30 kilometers, 60 kilometers, 80 kilometers, 100 kilometers. 100's the fastest I saw. 30's the slowest I saw. Drivers are aggressive, even in the small towns. Small towns are congested. I don't know if it's the amount of taxis combined with the amount of cars, combined with the amount of people on foot. Because the population of the country is not that much, but it's a small country in a way, but it's long, and it's kind of curvy, how it is. Costa Rica to the north, Colombia to the south. It's in Central America, okay? It is cooler than many places in the United States in the summertime. All right, people think it could be hot. It's tropical. I'm in Florida. Florida, where I am at, is cooler than sometimes Chicago, Baltimore, different places. But because I don't think they ever hit 100 degrees where I'm at in Florida. It hit 100 degrees in Maryland. It hit 100 degrees in Virginia. It did hit 100 degrees in Maine when I lived there. But it's never hit it where I'm at in Florida. In Panama, it usually never goes above 92 degrees Fahrenheit. They go by Celsius, but the range, I think, normally is 88 to 92, more or less. This year, they're getting more rain than normal. It's rainy season right now because of those multiple tropical storms in the Caribbean. When I lived there, summertime rain, summertime by U.S. standards, it's wintertime in Panama. 2 seasons in Panama, rainy and dry. Rainy season when I lived there was like a torrential downpour 20 minutes every afternoon, but when it was done, steam came off the street, humid as anything. And it was over. So if you drove a motorcycle, you got caught out, didn't pull under a bridge, and you waited out. When I was there, it would rain for 3 or 4 hours, which reminded me of rain here in Florida. Okay, because they said it's not normal, but it's from all the tropical storms. But this may be the new normal. The new normal. Okay. Horns. You will hear horns a lot. I got used to using my horn when I drove a motorcycle. I had to. Motorcycle was smaller. So when I came back to the States, it was ingrained in me. My career as a cop, I use my horn different times. I use my horn in my personal car more so. Most Americans, at least where I was living at, do not use their horn. Some big cities, they use their horn, but trust me, they don't use their horn like they do in Panama. Panama, they use a horn when they're speeding up before they get to you to warn you maybe that they're coming. They use a horn if they're behind you at a red light and you're not pulling out quick enough into traffic, they'll use their horn. They use their horn a lot. All right. Animals. You will see tropical animals there. You see parrots, you'll see cootamundis, you'll see sloths. Depends on where you're at, of course. You know, different parts, different things. You'll see beautiful tropical plants, but you also will see dogs everywhere. Stray dogs, pet dogs, dogs everywhere. And if you're in a neighborhood in the city or in one of the towns, it may be middle of the night and one dog barks and they all start barking. So there'll be a lot of barking. There's no noise ordinance. You can't call the police to come out to tell the dog to stop barking. Tell the owners they don't do that there. It's different, okay? They don't have addresses like we have in the States. You can't just mail a letter to somebody's house. There's no mail delivery going around. If you're an American and you want stuff shipped to you, I know there's a Mailbox, etc. is there, and there's other, I think, mail companies. And you can, if you move there, you can find whatever's local to where you're living at. And you can set up, I think, like a P.O. box in Miami through Mailbox, etc. So folks can mail you to Miami, the P.O. box in Miami, but then it gets delivered to Panama. It'll take a little bit longer. If you're ordering off Amazon, it will cost you a little bit more for shipping. I've never done it, so I don't know exactly how much more it will cost you. Okay, going back to animals. There are dogs everywhere. I've read about Americans who retire there and go to certain towns. They want to go on a kick to neuter dogs and clean up the town. I'm not saying none have been successful, but I don't know of any that have been successful. You can't change a culture when you're one person, okay? There are also chickens everywhere. There are chickens in Panama City. There's chickens in small towns. There's chickens. They're everywhere. Loose at times, in backyards, everywhere. There are roosters. Where I worked at as a cop, they passed an ordinance where you could have chickens in your yard. You were not allowed to have a rooster, but you could have chickens. If they bother people, like if your dog barks and bother people, people will call the police. In Panama, roosters crow. I had roosters and chickens as a kid. I grew up in the countryside. Roosters crowed in the morning. In Panama, they crow morning, afternoon, evening, nighttime, 1 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, all day. I experienced it staying in the Airbnb. It wasn't bad. I don't mind roosters per se. I don't like a pack of dogs barking, okay, that much. But if I lived there, I would get used to it. You just learn to sleep through it. So, and I've read enough blogs by Americans. They experience dogs and roosters no matter where they are in Panama. Okay? There's also, they speak the Spanish language. If you look on the internet, you will read stuff that a lot of Panamanians speak English. That all Panamanians study English in school. Yes, all Panamanians study English in school. No, most Panamanians do not speak English. I have my esposa de Panama. I have family who have studied English in school. They didn't learn English. I don't know what they're teaching them, but they don't learn how to speak English. But there are, I don't know the percentage, but there are Panamanians who do speak English. My Airbnb host speaks English, okay? But by and large, there's always somebody that does, but it depends on what town you're in. Just depends on what town you're in, okay? Now moving on to the pros. Why I love the country of Panama. Because every area has negatives, every area. There are pros to Panama. Housing is cheaper in Panama than the United States. It can be a lot cheaper. It's more expensive than it used to be because it's become Americanized. The prices have gone up somewhat, but it's still cheaper than the U.S. So if you own a house in the U.S. and you're 50 years old, you want to retire, but you can't afford to retire. If you sold your house, let's say the median price for homes in the U.S. is like, I don't know, I'll make up a number, $350,000. If you had $350,000, you could get a very nice house in Panama. It's not going to be a mansion, but it'd be a Panamanian style house, but a very nice one for less than $350, for $250, for $150. But it depends on where you're at. If you want to be on the beach, it's going to cost you more. If you want to buy a condo, I don't like condos. So Google the prices. You can buy a condo there. You can buy apartments there. You can buy housing on the beach or near the beach. There's beaches everywhere. It's another pro if you like beaches. There's beaches everywhere. There's mountains everywhere. If you like mountains, there are mountains there. Mountains and beaches. You got them both. If you want to go four-wheeling, they have Jeep clubs there. They go four-wheeling. I four-wheeled as a young person, but I'm not going to get into it now. Okay? Food is cheaper. If you go to the grocery store, I go to my local grocery store, we don't get that much. And if I get a little bit of meat, fish, chicken, whatever it is, pork, and I get a variety of groceries, I have spent in recent months $250, $260. We only did a little bit of shopping, but prices were noticeably different. But there was a couple in front of us with a kid in one of the supermarkets one time, and we saw their cart. You see people's carts. They had lots of meat. They had a variety of products, food, whatever they got. I don't know exactly what they got. Their entire shopping cart, when they rang out, was $125. I spent $125 just by barely covering the bottom of the cart. Okay, it's a big difference in food prices. Same for restaurants. Restaurants are cheaper than the United States. Now, with that being said, your food choices might be a little bit different. Depends on where you live at in the country. They eat a lot more rice. They eat a lot more beans. They eat a lot more fried food. But it's good. It's very good food. Lentils, different spices. You know, it's very good food. All right. It's a tropical country, but it varies. Panama City can get very hot sometimes. It's a big city. It's congested. It gets hot. It's humid. The humidity can be, you'll sweat. You will sweat. But as you get into the hills, get into the mountains, or go north, I guess you call it north, you go towards Costa Rica, the country turns, so it might be east or west. West, maybe, I don't know. But you can get, it'll be cooler, damper, I think more comparable to Seattle weather, like damper. I don't like wetness. I haven't been here. My next trip, I'm going there. My wife's been there a different time. She doesn't like it. We both like sunshine. Okay, and I know if she doesn't like it, I would like the natural beauty there. There is a big, large expat community there because a lot of Americans read online about, it's cooler, so a lot of Americans go there. There's an estimated 20 to 30,000 Americans living in the country at any given time. When I was stationed there was 25,000 military members and dependents in the country. But all military bases are closed down now, so there's no U.S. military bases there. All right. But if you want to live in the big city, Panama City is a big city. It's exciting. It's alive. There's a lot to do there. There's a lot of restaurants. There's big hotels. There's banks. Panama is a banking place. There's lots of banks there, okay? So if you have financial transactions, there's banks there. You don't have to worry about that. But cash is prevalent. But everyone uses cash, but most places do accept credit cards. Small markets will accept credit cards at times. Depends on where you're at. Ask. With the credit card, with the places I was in, it's usually Visa they will take, not American Express. I don't know. American Express, I think, charges more to the vendors. But every vendor, different ones I was in, restaurants, gas stations, markets, souvenir shops, vegetable place, not roadside vegetable stands because they take cash. But a lot of places would take credit cards. Okay? Panama is Americanized. There's been a large American presence there going back, 100 years. So it's Americanized. There's Kentucky Fried Chicken. There's McDonald's. I don't think Burger King's there. They might be in Panama City. There's Subway. There's Pio Pio. I don't like Pio Pio, but it's like a chicken sandwich type shop. But I like the local cuisine, the local places. Arroz con pollo, arroz con carne, con frijoles, con patacones. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You do seem to have a lot more Panamanians who will drink than Americans. Americans will drink a lot. You do seem like you have a lot more Panamanians that will drink 10 o'clock in the morning, lunchtime, sitting in a bar. But you also have a lot of Panamanians that do not drink, just like Americans, okay? So it's this. But you have the country is varied. It's a variety. It's diverse. Panama City is the big city. Cologne's on the other coastline. Right across from Panama City, Cologne is known to be dangerous. They don't recommend to go there. I've been there before. It had a dangerous reputation back then. I was there in the daytime. I wouldn't go there at nighttime. Then you have the Darien down towards Colombia. People have been known to go there and not come out. Church groups, missionaries have gone down there and they have not come back. There are drug runners, drug people from Colombia. It's a jungle down there. There's a town. They have buses that go down there. I've never been down there. I don't plan to go down there. I like to be alive. I stand out. I'm a gringo. There's no need for me to go there. I will stay away whenever I'm there. Okay, but if you go towards Costa Rica, you have all the various towns as you're progressing up. Pedasí, that one American I referenced who moved to Panama, he moved to Pedasí. It's a beach community. It was a smaller place. It's starting to grow, but it's right on the beach. He had a house built there. I think he spent $200,000, and he sent me pictures back, it was a couple years ago. Sent me pictures. He had like his king size bed. The frame was made, wood, solid wood. It was made for him. The builder did it. And it was a good house. He loved living there. Hopefully he will come on my channel and tell you about it. All right. I know up in Boquete and Volcan and David is David, up in that area, that's where a lot of expats, a lot of Americans go there. A lot of Canadians will go to Panama on vacation. There's a small airport in Rio Hato that I've been told they have a direct flight to Canada. I'm not sure what city in Canada, but a lot of wealthy Canadians fly to Panama for a weekend or 4 days, stay in one of the beach resorts because there are a variety of beach resorts. Rio Hato, I think I'm saying it right. There used to be a base there a long time ago. Operation Just Cause, the Army it was an airstrip, they took it over, but now I don't think they fly there into the U.S., but they fly to Canada. Because I guess there's some Canadian town where they've discovered the beauty of Panama. And resorts are resorts. They got some nice beachside resorts. One thing in Panama is there's a bigger difference between poor people and wealthy people. There's not as much of, in the United States, the middle class is disappearing. Panama really doesn't have a middle class. They do, but they don't. It's different. The middle class, just like a middle class America, Americans in the middle class are getting poorer and poorer. The middle class in Panama, I think, is towards the bottom also, but the folks who are wealthy kind of flaunt it in a way, more so than they do in the U.S. I'm not saying this in a bad way, it's the culture. They will drive the expensive cars. They let you know they have money. You just know they have money. In the United States, you have the millionaire next door. Read the book, The Millionaire Next Door. You can have the millionaire next door who drives the old Chevy pickup truck, and they wear boots and jeans and a t-shirt and flannel shirt, and they kind of blend in. Panama, if they got a little bit of money, they more flaunt it. But they have luxury type places. If you're an American as an investor and you got a little bit of money, not a lot, by American standards, you're not wealthy, but you got a little bit of money, you can live like a king almost in Panama. You don't have to flaunt it because you're going to stand out. If you're a gringo like me, they're going, wherever you live at, they're going to know an American's there. Okay? If you start living that lifestyle, they already think you're rich because you're an American. They already think that. It's a perception. They perceive the United States as having money. So they think you're rich, and they know the American dollar goes farther there. So even if you're not rich in the States, you're rich there. But if you are an investor and you have more money, you can live a luxurious lifestyle. It's different than the States. When I stayed 2 nights at the Hilton Resort in Panama City, Balboa Avenue. I was in an extremely nice room, the nicest room I've stayed in my various Hilton places I've stayed in. Nicest room by far. It was luxurious. Dealing with the staff, they treated me better than the U.S. places I have stayed. I would tip them, but the tips, you tip a lot in Panama. I personally tried to do just a little bit better. In grocery stores, the baggers, they will take your groceries, walk around to your car, put them in your car. Okay? I doubt they make very much money at all. I asked some local Panamanians, how much do you tip? And they said, one family asked, who I know, they give $1, but I know there's other Panamanians might give a quarter, 50 cents, $1. Okay, $1. I give $2. We're only buying like $25 worth of groceries at a time anyway, but I give $2, and I like to see their face light up. I make them happy because they don't make a lot of money. When they work jobs, they don't make a lot of money. And if you give them a tip, you don't want to spoil them and throw them a 20. I mean, nothing like that, because you're crossing the line there, Unless you're on vacation, it's your last day there and you got extra money, sure, give them a 10 or a 20 and, head back to your life and make their week for them, make their day. So anyway, sorry about that. But taxi drivers, Uber drivers, restaurants, some restaurants, they used to put it include the gratuity in the bill, but I think they got away from that. I think they made a law against that now, so you have to tip separately. Remember I said cash is used everywhere? That's the other thing. They use the American dollar as their currency. They have the Panamanian Balboa, paper dollars, coins. Coins are, if it's a Panamanian quarter, it's a U.S. quarter, same size and weight. They're interchangeable in a vending machine. Not that we use vending machines that much anymore. But they use the American dollar as their currency. It's the same, basically. American dollar is Balboa. You can have either one, all right? Which means you don't have to exchange money. Makes it a lot easier. You get a pension, you get Social Security. You can spend your money, all right? Last big thing I'll talk about, if you are a retired American and you have a guaranteed income, you have a pension or you have Social Security or some kind of guaranteed income, okay? I don't know if it's rental property income, if they'll count that. I do have a pension. My pension will qualify. I think don't hold me to this, but I think it's $1,500 a month. If you get at least $1,500 a month, you get a pensionado, a pension visa, all right? You get some kind of card. That card entitles you to discounts. You can get anywhere up to 50% off, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, it varies, to sporting events, baseball games, soccer games, sporting events, airplane tickets from Panama, Restaurants, they will give you 10 to 15% off. I think maybe some utility bills, maybe something. But more property tax. If you buy property, I think you're exempt from property tax for 20 years. Something like that. At least they used to do that. I think they're still doing it. Taxes are low there. Taxes are low. Okay. If you buy in the store, like in the grocery store, I checked the receipt. I'm not being charged tax. I don't think they have a sales tax at all. If you work a job, I don't know if they tax income. I don't think they do. You do pay property tax. But if you get that pension visa, you might be exempt for 20 years. 20 years, that's a long time. Okay? All right, so what might mazske be doing? I'm getting to the end here. This is a long video. I'm sorry about that. I told you I would share what I might be doing. I have the opportunity to get possibly, potentially, hopefully, a nice piece of land. It's an area I'm familiar with. It has to be measured. I'm not exactly sure what it will be. I'm just going to estimate between half an acre and a full acre. It might be more than that. It might be an acre and a half. It might be a maximum of 2 acres. Okay, but it's a healthy piece of land. It's been a cow pasture for a long time. It's not currently. There's no cows there. Well, there's been evidence of cows having been there, but there's not per se cows there. And there is electricity and water available. I'd have to add 3 poles to get the electricity to my property. I know how I can run the water. It'd be town water that would be run there. I could probably build, I'm estimating, I don't know this for sure, I could get a builder. I have been in a variety of Panamanian houses. I stayed in Airbnb in a town called Panama. I've stayed in houses in Panama City. I've stayed in houses in Veracruz, Arihan. I've been in different houses over my time of living there. I've been in different houses. Now, you have very cheap houses. You can buy a house that's a livable house for $50,000. Okay? I don't think I'd want to live in those houses, or I'd want to upgrade them, I think. Depends on where they're at, because it's a big country. They're spread out everywhere. Okay? But you can also get a house for 100, 125, 150, and it can be a nice house. It will be different than an American house. Okay? Noticeable differences. Most houses do not have a lot of outlets. As Americans, my house here, it seems like I need a few more outlets. It was built in 2002. If it was built in 2022, I think it would have more outlets. But a lot of those houses have even fewer outlets. Okay, but they do use normal, whatever, 110 current. You can plug your devices in there. It is fine. Your breaker box will probably be smaller than it is at your house in the U.S. If I build a house, I'm going to try to get a larger breaker box, and I will pay an electrician to do additional wiring to put more outlets in for me. All right. But I think I could build a decent house. I'm budgeting, I plan to budget, I don't have it right now, roughly $100,000 to do everything. It may exceed that because I'll want some different things. Most of the houses I've been in, most of the bathrooms, they're smaller. I don't mind small bathrooms because my house in Virginia had a small bathroom. But the toilets are smaller, the sinks are physically smaller, and they're shorter. Toilets are the short ones, sinks are shorter. The average Panamanian is shorter than the average American, okay? Things are they're shorter. There's less outlets, they're shorter. So I would want bigger toilets, higher toilets, okay? As you get older, you get bad knees. You don't want to go down as low. You want to be a little higher. I'd want my sink higher because if you got a bad back, you don't want to be bending over at the sink. You want it to be higher. American standards, let's say. I haven't built a house, but if you got the money and you tell someone don't position it there, measure what you got in your house and put it higher, I'm sure they'll do it. I don't know. I didn't go in they don't have a Lowe's there, but I didn't go in I was in one of those stores, but I didn't look at the prices of toilets or if they had I should have done, I'll do it next time. If they have the higher toilets like we have in, almost all the toilets in Lowe's now on Home Depot are the higher ones, almost all of them. Okay, not 100%. Cheaper ones are shorter. So there's just some other things that are just different. Okay, so if you buy an existing house, unless it was an American built house, even if it was American built, it'll probably be different than your house in the U.S. in some fashion. A lot of houses have metal roofs. It rains a lot, so metal roofs are fine. They're cheaper too. They don't really use shingles like asphalt shingles. Some houses do have tile. Tile's more expensive. Almost 100% of houses I've been in have been a tile floor, and it's nicer tile than what I have in this house here. I have a tile floor in here. 100% of my house is tile. The tile used there, they get some of that tile, I think, from Italy and maybe South America, wherever they get it from. It's nicer than the tile that they use here in Florida on average, and it's cheaper. It's just, everything's cheaper. Yes, there's supply problems. Yes, you might have to wait on materials. And the Panamanian culture, I know it's getting long, but somebody out there will need this information. The Panamanian culture, they are aggressive on the roads, but with everything else, they're tranquil. Tranquilo. They're relaxed people, for the most part. Especially if you hire workers. Tranquilo. They're relaxed. They should show up, but they might not show up when they said they would show up. They might not work as long of a day as you expect your American contractor to work. Something that should take 2 days might take a week. If you have to deal with the government for permits or whatever, expect to wait. It's just how it is. Doesn't matter if you're Panamanian or American. Doesn't matter. You expect to wait. It'll take longer. It'll be slower. And so on and so on. Okay? But if you're going to move to the country of Panama because you cannot afford to retire in the U.S., you've read International Living and you've looked at the country that they rank, and you chose Panama because of the warm weather, the proximity to the U.S. It's not like over in Asia. It's easy to hop back to the U.S. Major Copa, United, they fly direct flights into Miami. They fly into Texas, and my son a couple years ago flew from New York, LaGuardia. I think it was a direct flight down to Panama. Another person I knew flew down from the Northwest up around Washington State, flew to Panama. Same trip I was on back in 2016. We had another person come down there. So anyway, sorry. So Panama, it's a relaxed country. It's tranquilo. We brought a hammock back with us. My tiki hut's been finished down there. I'm gonna wrap this up. In Bohio, they will call it. In Panama, they will call that a bohio. I call it a tiki hut. If I go to Panama, it's a bohio. We bought a hammock down there. It was $25. I'll wait till the missus gets back. The missus is still in Panama. She's, as I think I said, is from Panama. I'm from the U.S. She's still down there. It's her family. I'm Americanized. When I'm there, it costs us more money. Okay, so she can live there cheaper than what I would live there. So anyway, she's staying longer. But when she gets back, I'll let her choose a spot. We're probably going to hang the hammock down on the tiki hut. So if you come visit me and you're laying in it, don't flip over and flip out on the canal side or you'll fall in the water. Okay, all right. But we'll put a little Panamanian touch to our property. It's already a little Panamanian touch to this house, but there'll be more. All right. But if I do build a house there, I am not planning to move to Panama. But if I stay healthy and I get a house built there, or if I end up buying a house somewhere, my plan would be to spend more time there. I went last Monday and I flew back yesterday. It wasn't enough time. 1 week, it wasn't enough. When I went there in 1999 and stayed for 3.5 weeks, it wasn't enough time. I had 2 little kids with me still, and it was hard with 2 little kids, but I like the country. I could see myself living there. I honestly could. Maybe you could too. Maybe you could too. I would get frustrated at certain things, but I'm older now. It is what it is, okay? You can't change a culture. You cannot, as an American, move in and think, I'm American, I'm going to do this. You can't do it. You can't change a culture. You have to accept it, adapt to it. Sure, tweak your house there, put your American touches on it. And if you need when you go shopping, there are in a grocery store American products, American brands, but they will cost you more than the Panamanian brands. Okay, So if you want to save money, you buy the Panamanian brands. If it's something that they do not have a Panamanian brand or a South American or Central American brand, and they got it in the American brand, but it costs more, well, that's you splurge. You get that if that's what you want, okay? All right, I could talk on this for a long time, all right? I love that country. I love the United States of America, okay? There's pros and cons to both places. There's a lot of gun violence in the United States. There's not much gun violence in Panama. There's a drug problem in the U.S. There are drugs in Panama. There's alcohol problem in the U.S. There's alcoholism in Panama. There's crazy drivers in the United States. There are aggressive drivers in Panama. There's a difference. Here in my community here, I see reckless driving. In Panama, it's not reckless driving. It's aggressive driving. It's different. Okay, it's not reckless per se. There are accidents, but where I live at here, there's a lot more accidents. It seems like Americans don't know how to drive. Panamanians don't know how to drive either. No one knows how to drive. It seems like. Okay, it's global. All right, we're too distracted. Cell phones are there, just like in the United States. Children are obsessed. Adults are obsessed with cell phones. The police, you respect the authority of the police more so in Panama than Americans do here in the U.S. Because I have a brother-in-law, he's a police officer. I asked him one time, what would happen if you pulled me over? And he goes, well, I'd ask you for your driver's license and your passport. And I said, well, what if I didn't have my passport with me? And he goes, were you military? If you have a military ID and you're stationed there, that's okay. But he goes, if you're a tourist and you don't have your passport, and what if I tell you in broken Spanish that it's in my hotel room? He'd say, sorry, you're under arrest because you are required to have your passport with you. So if you don't have it, you get arrested and you might go to jail, okay? If you're an American, that's going to surprise you because you can walk around the U.S. without anything. You don't have to have your driver's license, you don't have to have an ID on you. You have to have something to drive a car, but you don't have to. They require mask in Panama. I think the mask requirement is being lifted next Monday, July the 11th. But while I was there, I wore a mask a lot in public. I don't wear a mask here. It's required there. Everyone wears a mask. You don't have the attitude, oh, I need my freedom. You can't make me wear a mask. You wear a mask because if you don't, you might get fined. You might start sweeping the streets. Okay? That's how it is. It's a democratic leadership. They vote for their president. It's a democratic election process. But they are sort of authoritarian on certain things, but not on other things. But one thing I noticed, this trip in particular, the police officers were always out there. They're called transito. They're the transit cops, the traffic cops. A lot of them ride motorcycles. They'd be out there with a radar gun, standing on the side of the road, pointing it at every single car. This is in the past. Now, almost every single time, there's a lot of cops there. You see a lot of police there, more than you see in the U.S. But every single time I saw one, they were on their cell phone. They were looking at it. They were touching it. They were talking to it. One after it, all the way from Panama City, 2 hours off. Every single police officer on trips around town when cops were standing outside, if they weren't talking to a person, they were talking to their phone. It is what it is. All right? But I did find something else out. They get paid. It's a job. They get paid. But my brother-in-law is a cop. He works 4 on, 4 off. I think he stays in his, I don't know what to call it, their barracks for 4 straight days. And then he gets 4 days off. Occasionally, he is told he has to work on one of his days off. When he works on one of his days off, he's not getting paid for it. He used to get paid for it, but budgets got tight. He has to work to keep the job. He's working for free. If you work in the United States, that wouldn't happen. Americans wouldn't put up with it. But you need your job, so you have to go. But if you're not getting paid, you might start losing motivation. And maybe that's why I saw every police officer on the phone, okay? But I'm sure if they're on their phone and they hear a car coming at them fast, they can put the phone down, pick up their radar gun, and get them in. And they'll get them. Because I did see a few cars pulled over. Not as many cars as I used to, but I did see one or two pulled over, but not like it used to be. Okay? All right, this has gotten long. I may try to do a live stream tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If I do, I will make I will put a reminder thing out tomorrow morning. I'm going to think on it. I got a lot of stuff to do. I've been busy this morning with my pool. I got my tiki hut down there. I got to go get my mail for the week. I got some stuff going on. As always, real estate stuff going on. Now I'm thinking about building a house. Okay? All right, good enough. I probably forgot something. So if you got any other specific questions about something about the country of Panama, fly in there. You don't need a visa if you're an American. You got to have an American passport. If you want to live there and you're allowed to stay 90 days, 180 days. I've never stayed 90 days except when I was in the Navy station there. If you want to stay longer than that, you need a visa. And there's two types of visa, a tourist visa and the pensionado, the pension visa. Get the pension visa, you can live there under it. Okay? You can become a Panamanian citizen, but they will require you to renounce your U.S. citizenship. There are Americans who might do that for a variety of reasons, but when they renounce it, the United States doesn't accept that. So if you have income, Social Security, something from the U.S., you're still paying tax. The United States IRS will always tax you no matter where you're at, it seems like. They find you. If you're around the world, if you're getting income from the U.S., you will pay tax on it. Okay? You'll pay a lot less tax in Panama. So I think I covered about everything that I can think of. There's more. There's more if you're going to move. If you're going to move to that country, there is so much more information you need to know. You need to go there and visit it. Experience it. Don't just listen to me. Don't read International Living and all these other sites and these blogs. Some blogs might be good, but most of them, they're either 100% negative because they hate the country or tropical paradise. And that's all you hear is the good stuff. You don't hear the dogs and the roosters and the traffic and the horns and the government bureaucracy and the government, that fraud, the whole, some of that money goes in the government officials' pockets still. It happens there, okay? It's different than the U.S. But there's laws there and they're strict. And if you violate a law, you will probably go to jail. I don't want to go to jail in the U.S. I really don't want to go to jail in a foreign country, okay? All right, good enough. It's getting long. So anyway, if you got any questions, let me know. Should I do a live? If you're still here, should I do a live stream tomorrow night or not? Do I need to get my feet back under me and get settled in and do it next week? We'll see. All right, y'all take care. Stay safe. Keep loving life. Tiene un buen día. Ciao. Gracias. De nada. Bien bueno provecho. Whatever that is. Have a good lunch. Have a good dinner. Have a good day. Enjoy life. Keep smiling. Always love life. Mazske is signing out.